You have told yourself that you just need to try harder. You have said that after every failure, every relapse, every time you have lost momentum. But what if trying harder isn't the problem? What if your entire system is the problem? You see, discipline isn't about self-control. Self-control is the tool, but not the real engine. The real engine is the system behind it. Most of us fail at staying consistent because we rely on feelings, not on frameworks. We move when we feel like it and stop when we don't. But systems, they move even when you don't. That's what they are built for. They remove the decision and leave only the action. That's how you start depending on the feeling molecule and start living by the do it anyway molecule. To build real discipline, you need to start from the ground up. You see, discipline is the destination, but not the vehicle. Think of it this way. Discipline is the house. Systems are the pillars that sustain the house. And to start building it, you first need to remove what doesn't belong in the equation. Motivation. Because God never asks you to feel motivated. He asks you to build a temple strong enough to carry His Spirit. And to build that temple, you need its 3 core pillars. The Spirit, the architect. The mind, the blueprint. The body, the vessel. If you stay with me until the end, you'll not just learn how to build real discipline, but also how to sustain it. Because the goal isn't to move when you feel inspired. The goal is to build a temple that obeys God even when you don't. Because motivation fades, but systems sustain. But even systems crumble without order. And order starts with God. Let's start with the Spirit. You keep praying for peace, but still feel chaos. Maybe because it's not a lack of prayer. Maybe it's a lack of order. It is written, God is not a God of disorder, but of peace. From the very beginning, God revealed Himself through structure. Creation wasn't built through chaos. It was built through structure. Day by day, God created in sequence. Day 1, light and darkness. Day 2, sky and waters. Day 3, land and vegetation. Day 4, sun, moon and stars. Day 5, sea creatures and air creatures. Day 6, land animals. And finally, man. On the 7th day, He rested. But can you imagine if He had created everything randomly? The universe would have collapsed before it even began. Creation runs on a system. The universe is a divine ecosystem. Every part is connected, every detail dependent on the next one. If God had created vegetation before light, it would have died. If He had formed the earth before the moon and the sun, it would have frozen in chaos. Everything is built in structure. Every part is dependent on the next one. That's how God created life. Through structure, through rhythm. When man broke rhythm, chaos entered the system. That's what sin is, a spiritual disorganization. That's where the devil lives. His first weapon isn't destruction, it's distraction. He whispers it's just a small decision, but every decision, small or big, touches the system that it is you, and the system that lives in you touches everyone around you. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come like a thief. When I live without structure, it didn't just affect my work. It affected everything around me. My focus, my energy, my relationship, and my peace. I was constantly angry at everything and everyone, yelling at people who didn't even deserve it. And I called it stress, but it was a spiritual disorder. Peace is not the absence of pressure, it's the presence of order. I realized I couldn't keep living that way, so I started realigning the basics. Prayer at the same time, scripture before the day began, fixed times for workouts, and that's when everything started to shift. Peace returned, focus followed, motivation came back, not as a spark, but as a fruit, because God restores through order. We can pray all we want, but peace won't stay without structure. When you align your routine, discipline stops feeling like effort and it starts becoming a rhythm. Peace is the fruit of structure. God doesn't improvise, neither should you. When your spirit finds order, your mind starts to follow. But if the blueprint in your head is chaos, the temple still falls. Let's talk about the mind. Have you ever wondered why you keep falling into the same old habit even after praying about it? It's because your mind doesn't care if a habit saves you or destroys you. It just automates what's repeated. The brain doesn't care if it's holy or harmful, only if it's repeated. That's why discipline is mercy. It gives structure to chaos before chaos becomes identity. Every day your mind runs on one of two modes, a system or a cycle. A system is built intentionally to produce freedom. A cycle is formed accidentally through reaction. When you decide nothing, your brain builds its own loops. It automates what it often sees. That's why bondage always begins unconsciously. The chains of habits are too weak to be felt until they are too strong to be broken. The brain loves efficiency. It builds habits to save energy, to conserve glucose for deeper thinking and self-control. But if it's filled with chaos, it will build efficient destructions. That's why you can scroll for hours and struggle to pray for 10 minutes, because your brain automates an escape, not endurance. While you repeat, you rewire. With systems you can redirect that energy towards obedience and purpose, and that begins by understanding the four internal pillars of obedience. Dopamine controls pursuits, habit loops control behaviors, environments control triggers, systems control sustainability. Let's break them down. Dopamine, the pursuit chemical. Dopamine doesn't create pleasure, it creates pursuit. It's not a feel-good molecule, it's the seek more molecule. Your focus, drive, and motivation depend on how balanced dopamine is. When dopamine is overstimulated, you'll crave it without any contempt. When it's starved, you'll feel numb and lifeless. The goal isn't to kill dopamine, it's to retrain it. Kill cheap pleasure, restore real pursuits. You do that by killing the cheap version so you can train your brain to chase pleasure again. Because when pleasure becomes cheap, purpose becomes expensive. Every spike comes with a crash. The cheaper the spike, the deeper the crash. Our generation has become addicted to this spike. Social media, entertainment, junk food, porn. Each one of these keeps training our mind to expect reward without any real effort. That's why discipline feels painful, because our reward system forgot how to wait. Have a loop, the neural routine. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your structure. Each action you take follows 4 stages: the cue, the craving, the response, the reward. The cue that triggers you, the notification, the image, the scroll. The craving, you don't crave the action itself, you crave the relief that comes from the action. The response, you take an action to satisfy the craving. The reward, the quick relief that comes from the action. Each time, it strengthens the loop through a process called myelination. It's like wrapping insulation around a wire. Each time, it makes it faster, stronger, automatic. That's how bad habits become efficient distractions until you learn to build good habits that become holy systems. Repetition is worship. Choose what you worship. Environment, the hidden architect. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes behavior. James Clear. Your brain automates what it often sees. If chaos fills your space, chaos fills your soul. If order surrounds you, order strengthens you. You are always being discipled by your environment. There are 3 that shape who you are becoming. Physical environment. Your room, your light, your layout. Digital environment. Your feed, your notifications, your tabs. Social environment. The people, the culture, the conversations. Each one is shaping your standard. Each one is either building a system or a cycle. So align your environment with your calling, so everything around you reminds you of who you are becoming. Systems, the sustaining structure. Systems don't make you work harder, they make you work smarter. They protect your energy and automate obedience. Some people work for 12 hours and produce little. Others work for 3 hours and multiply impact. Because systems carry the load. Willpower drains. Systems sustain. Willpower is a finite resource, governed by the prefrontal cortex. The more you use it, the more you drain it. That's why decision fatigue leads to impulsivity and inconsistency. When you rely on emotions instead of rhythm, you'll burn out faster than you can build. When you expect to feel motivated instead of being ordered, you will lose your edge. Because motivation dies, but systems, they resurrect. When your life becomes rhythm, resistance loses power. You can have the best systems in the world, but if the body breaks, your system still falls. Let's talk about the body. You cannot pour wine into an old wineskin. You cannot sustain discipline with a system that is sick. You cannot outdiscipline bad chemistry. You cannot pray your way out of patterns your psychology is sabotaging. Because the heart of every system is health. And if the health collapses, so everything inside it. Your focus, your drive, your energy, your conviction, your obedience. They all live or die based on the body that carries them. Your body is the vessel, not the enemy. When your hormones are off, focus betrays you. When your sleep is off, discipline betrays you. When your nervous system is off, consistency betrays you. Always. There are 3 core hormones of discipline: the pursuit, the engine, the regulator. Let's break them down. Dopamine, the chemical pursuit, controls motivation, drive, and attention. When dopamine is unbalanced, you chase stimulation. When it's balanced, you chase purpose. Dopamine is what fuels I want. Without it, you feel numb, heavy, unmotivated. Your spiritual calling doesn't disappear. Your chemistry just can't carry it. Testosterone, the masculine engine. Testosterone is a hormone of drive, ambition, energy, confidence, aggression in the right direction. Low testosterone, low drive, low confidence, low clarity, depression, indecision, passivity. High natural testosterone, conviction, clarity, momentum. The same fuel that builds muscle, builds mission. Cortisol, the stress regulator. Cortisol isn't the enemy. Chronic cortisol is the kind caused by lack of sleep, doom scrolling, high caffeine, no structure, constant stimulation. Long-term high cortisol kills discipline. It suppresses testosterone. It kills your dopamine sensitivity. It destroys your ability to focus. But healthy cortisol, the one regulated by rhythm and structure, it's what builds the disciplined life. Alertness in the morning, steadfast throughout the day, rest at night. Energy isn't just calories, it's neural clarity. Discipline is a biochemistry submitted to God, the daily system of renewal. Here's how to restore the body so the spirit and mind can move freely. Morning sunlight, 5 to 10 minutes. Resets your circadian rhythm, balances cortisol, boosts dopamine and testosterone. Cold exposure, 1 to 3 minutes. Rises norepinephrine, which increases alertness and focus, builds stress resilience, trains obedience under pressure. Sleep 7 to 8 hours. This is hormone therapy. No sleep, no discipline. Nutrition, protein, fats, micronutrients. You cannot build a temple on junk food. Focus on getting quality food with at least 30 grams of protein per meal. Training 4 to 6 times weekly plus 2 to 3 cardio sessions. Heavy lifting strengthens the mind. Cardio strengthens the heart. Recovery strengthens the system. Fasting 12 to 16 hours daily or weekly. Teaches restraint, restores dopamine sensitivity, sharpens the spirits. The goal isn't perfection, it's pattern. Repetition builds the system, renewing it keeps it alive. Discomfort is data. The flesh speaks through craving, the spirit speaks through control. Every time you choose discomfort on purpose, you're literally rewiring your brain. Stress response decreases, focus increases, self-respect compounds. Because the key to discipline isn't comfort, it's controlled stress plus repetition. 3 tools to strengthen the system. Tool 1. Fasting, the spiritual reset. Fasting isn't just a spiritual weapon, it's a neurological reset. When you stop feeding the flesh, you start feeding the spirit. Fasting increases dopamine receptor sensitivity, sharpens focus, clears the mind, breaks dependency loops. Your mind and body learn satisfaction without stimulation. You tell your body, I don't serve you, you serve me. Levels of fasting: daily rhythm 12 to 16 hours, weekly reset 20 to 24 hours, spiritual fast multi-day only with prayer and intention. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Matthew 4:4. Tool 2. Caffeine, the temporary tool. Most men use caffeine as a crutch, not a tool. Yes, it increases energy, focus, and alertness. But if it's overuse, spikes cortisol, kills sleep quality, lowers dopamine sensitivity. When you depend on coffee to start your day, you start to rely more on it and less on God. So use it with structure. Delay 90 to 120 minutes after waking up. Stop 8 hours before you sleep. Take 1 to 2 days per week off. Everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. 1 Corinthians 10:23. Cold exposure, the neural forge. Cold exposure releases massive norepinephrine, focus, alertness, resilience. It also builds willpower by conditioning your stress response. When you enter cold water and stay still, you reprogram the part of your mind that says, run from discomfort. Every time you choose discomfort, every time you take a cold shower, you tell your body, I belong to someone greater. Present your bodies as living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Romans 12:1. That's discipline. A daily altar, a living offering. Because comfort kills calling. Fasting, restraint, and exposure bring the body back into holy alignment. Pain isn't punishment, it's preparation. Because pain was never meant to destroy you, it was meant to rebuild you. That's what this whole journey is about. Becoming the temple again. Let's finish this together. You don't lose discipline overnight. You lose it every morning you wake up without rhythm. Because you don't build it once, you build it daily. This is entry number 14 in what I call the temple framework. Daily alignment through spirit, your architect, mind, your blueprint, body, your vessel. Most men lose their flame because they treat consistency like a sprint, not a worship. Stop chasing motivation. Build rhythm. Stop praying for discipline. Design systems. Stop trying to feel spiritual. Live structured so the spirit can move freely. Because when your mind obeys, your mind becomes quiet enough to hear God. And when your mind obeys, your spirit becomes strong enough to follow Him. And when your spirit obeys, your whole life aligns. Discipline isn't about self-control, it's about communion. Every small act of order is a prayer without words. Every repetition is an offering. Every structure you build is a way of saying, God, I'm ready for more. He who is faithful in little will be faithful in much. Motivation fades, systems stay. And when your system is aligned with heaven, your life starts moving in rhythm, not resistance. So keep building the temple, keep tending the fire, and remember, you don't wait for the light, you build it. I'll see you in entry number 15.